is valid. I affirm you and I love you and live your liberated truth. Now Thursday, in a moment of intense Kierkegaardian despair, I agonized over what my message should be. Which of these issues do I highlight? What do I amplify? How do I distill this constellation of social injustice and inequity into a call of action worthy of this moment? And somewhere between sweating out a fever and polishing off yet another hot toddy, I thought the words of Dr. King and a line from his letter of Birmingham jail. Of those who identified themselves as allies in the time, he wrote, quote, "I had hoped that the white moderate would understand that law and order exists for the purpose of establishing justice, and that when they fail in this purpose, they become the dangerously structured dams that block the flow of social progress." Now, whether we consider the meaning of law and order literally to mean our public administration and criminal punishment system, or colloquially as a socio-political status quo contract in which we are all expected to follow, what I seek to punctuate today is this call to action. I challenge you in 2019 to commit to restructuring your narrative identity from that of an ally, which is an adjective, to an accomplice, which is a verb. The construct of the ally has become a passive philosophy anchored by sympathetic inaction, expressed through baseless outrage and self-aggrandizing pontification. It is the 21st century white moderate. Allyship without action is a perpetuation of systemic and institutional violence and complicity. Merriam-Webster defines the verb of ally as a combination or unification of a resource or commodity with another for a mutual benefit. I ask you, are your actions and behaviors mutually beneficial with those who are oppressed or those who are oppressing? Dr. King argues human progress never rolls in on the wheels of inevitability, and without hard work, time becomes an ally of the forces of social stagnation. Bottom line, faith without works is dead. To be an accomplice is to be a co-conspirator in social justice and equity. The term accomplice itself is defined as an associate in an action commissioned in opposition to the current law and order. The same law and order that, when they are just, exist to establish justice, but when they are unjust, seek to block the flow of social progress. The accomplice seeks to destroy these barriers in line in oppression with concert with and service to the fight of social equity. To be an accomplice is a verb that requires action, behavior, and practice, constantly and consistently over the entirety of one's lifetime. To be an accomplice means risk, disruption, decentering of self, and reappropriation of ill-gotten resources produced within the vortexes of privilege and supremacy. Let me repeat this again. To be an ally is to be someone who unifies resources for the mutual benefit of our current social systems, administrations, paradigms, laws, and institutions. To be an accomplice is to be an associate in action in opposition of these things. Consider the historical, widespread, and devastating impacts of the mechanizations and status quo of our society today. Those who are dying at the hands of injustice, and consider where you stand. Are you an ally or are you an accomplice? Now, I'm limited in these little 5 minutes to give you the full education and armory of tools to transition from an ally to accomplice this year, but what I could do in closing is point you in the direction of the destination and encourage you to establish the benchmarks and find those checkpoints that will help you along your journey. And it all boils down to this: do the thing. Do the thing of dismantling systems and institutions of violence and disrupting this machine of oppression and harm. Seek the truth and then critically examine all the loopholes and admissions in what you have been led to believe is the the truth. And then once you think you've reached a good understanding of the breadth and the depth of truth, make a long, lifelong commitment to the practice of always asking why. Fervently dismantle oppression and violence through action and behavior, and remain continuously reflective and open to calibration, recalibration, and storying of yourself. Now, in my last few moments with you, I will take this opportunity and this platform that I have been honored and given to amplify and name here in front of you all a tiny fraction of current truths, movements, and issues that need accomplices right now, either in amplification, support, disruption, or dismantling. Flint, Michigan is still without clean water. The plastic straw ban is ableist. The average age expectancy of autistic folks is 36. The average age expectancy for Black, Indigenous, people of color, trans women is 35. End-stage capitalism is destroying the economy, the ecosystem, and the environment. The school-to-prison pipeline is a bastion of racialized ableism that criminalizes and institutionalizes disabled Black, Indigenous, people of color, and we need to do something about it. Uniontown, Alabama is still breathing lethally toxic air. Adultification of Black children is a sin we all must stand accountable for and stop right now. The dynamic between Eurocentric anti-Blackness informs racism and not the other way around. Hire disabled Black, Indigenous, and people of color women. Elect disabled BIPOC women. Place disabled BIPOC women in positions of leadership. Trust disabled BIPOC women. Believe disabled BIPOC women. Pay disabled BIPOC women. Respect disabled BIPOC women, and house disabled BIPOC women. Black Lives Matter, believe survivors, sex work is work, some minimum wage is violence, nothing about us without us, housing is a human right, dismantle the bottoms and the margins, and be an accomplice, not an ally. Thank you.
To invite Hanan Hassan to come and share words, share poetry, to share her heart, to move us all to action.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me? I can't hear you. Can you hear me? Thank you. Salam, everyone. Peace and blessings. My name is Hanan, and I'm here to share a word with you today. This poem was inspired by restlessness. I realized early on in my life that my humanity was tied to the lives and experiences of others. Although I may not always be suffering, there is always someone in this world who is suffering. Their suffering is my own. I've asked myself the question, how can I make a change? Many times throughout my life. Fatigued by my restlessness, I took the time to examine how I can make the most meaningful impact. I realized that I could use my words to amplify the experiences of others. As novelist and poet Chinua Achebe once stated, "Until the lions have their own historian, the history of the hunt will always glorify the hunter. Until the lion has his historian, the history of the hunt will always glorify the hunter." This poem is called Historian for the Hunted. I dare to speak up for the ones that are silent, the perished, the dead, who were taken by violence, by hatred so evil it sets off the sirens in the hearts of the many affected by climates, imposed by the powers want life for us gory, oppress us then kill us, then rewrite our story, use ignorant persons to push their agendas, then blame them, condemn them, say it's their dilemma. Real narratives living on tongues of despair. So shook they stay quiet, they bury despair. Their silence a guise that shields them from torture, but the truth beats them harder than any enforcer. It crawls up their throats in the nights as they sleep. Wake up soaked in fear and they weep, and they weep. I will speak for the silent, for the quiet and meek. For the lions without historians when their time is most bleak. I will speak for those mothers whose children are deep. 6 feet under earth, their hearts aching in grief. I will speak for Aleppo, for Flint, for Trayvon. I will speak up for Hamza and baby Aylan. I will speak up for Dea, Yusar and Razan. I will speak for Sierra, those who've done nothing wrong. I will speak for those sinking in deep seas of sorrows, holding hope in their palm for a brighter tomorrow. It is they who push me to be great, to be proud. I will speak for them loud, no guise and no shroud. I will speak till I can't speak no more. And when that day comes, some must take up the chore. Show them to be louder, teach the children their voice. Of resilience is power, tell them all to make noise. They must speak for the silent, there is no other choice. They must fall in all ears, then one day will rejoice. In a land known as paradise, prepped for arrival. For those who have fought for what's right, for what's vital. For humanity, for love, for what makes us all great. On that day, we will rest. No more pain. No more hate. I urge you all to speak up. I urge you all to do something when you see that it doesn't make sense. I urge you all to do something when you see your fellow human beings sleeping outside of the cafes that you are comfortably enjoying your latte at. Thank you.
I want to take a second to acknowledge this beautiful crowd that we have here this morning. Give it up to each other. I also want to take a second to get to know each other. So if you can just quickly turn around and share, I'm grateful to share space and I commit to take action. I'll take a minute there. Ready? All right. So let's bring it back. Thank you everybody for being here, acknowledging each other's presence. It is important that we carry each other's energy into this space and acknowledge each other's beings. Up next, I want to introduce Cynthia Ilian Vasquez, who's part of the Washington Dream Coalition. Give it up to Cynthia.
Hello, everyone. Can we just give another applause to Hanan? I don't know about y'all, but every time youth are given the platform to share their voice, I know that we're going to be okay, because the youth are so powerful and resilient. So, my name is Cynthia Ilian Vasquez. I'm undocumented, unafraid, and very empowered organizer with the Washington Engineering Coalition. I am here to remind us all that our liberation is dependent on the liberation of each and single one of us. Imagine if each and every one standing in this park, the ones that you just took a moment and introduced each other to, in combination with the thousands upon thousands of women across the United States, united with a common agenda to stand in solidarity with each other. Imagine the power that we could have, because there is power in numbers, and that up there is what we're building. Because women's rights, racial justice, and economic justice are immigrant rights. Imagine a world where the Me Too movement was inclusive of immigrant women, often domestic and migrant workers, who are also subject to workplace harassment and assault, but are forced to be silent because their employers use threats and coercion to silence them. Imagine an environmental rights movement that acknowledged that environmental degradation caused by huge corporations affect coastal communities and are a huge contributor to the forced migration of many Black and brown communities. Imagine a national movement who included undocumented workers in their agendas for affordable health care, for fair pay, for healthy working environments. Imagine even the conversations that we are having today about stopping the school-to-prison pipeline, to know that undocumented Black and brown youth are not being propelled into the system of school to prison, but possibly detention and deportation. When we talk about the right to live a full and healthy life, free from all forms of violence, we also have to include immigrant and other marginalized groups in that vision. Because united, we can transform the world, and I really believe that. Because standing in solidarity with each other is the only way to our collective liberation. So my ask for you today is to support undocumented and immigrant-led organizations and follow our lead. Call on your xenophobic friends and family, because these rhetorics cannot continue to harm our communities. Push our elected officials' boundaries on what progressive immigration policy really looks like. It's time to change the narrative of the movement, of why we are all here. My immigrant and undocumented community has been under attack on so many fronts, from family separation, to deportations, to detentions, to violation of due process and violence against queer and trans immigrants. I condemn each and every single person that played a role in this human rights violation. But I'm not going to continue to stand idly aside, and I encourage you to do the same. I also want to take a moment of silence for all the women and children that have been murdered by ICE and our xenophobic narrative in the U.S. Those in detention centers not too far from here, those seeking asylum, and even those in our communities. Let's take a moment of silence. We unfortunately cannot bring back the lives that were lost this year, but we can fight together to ensure no community member is targeted, because immigrants are such an integral part of our social fabric here in the United States. Immigrant women are resilient. It's time to follow our lead. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cynthia. Well, we just want to continue to welcome all the people that are pouring in. It is such an honor to have you here to take action on behalf of some of our most vulnerable relatives. And as we continue on, I just want to take 1 or 2 moments to think a little bit about a crisis that we know that is happening here in our city and across the country and through Canada. Tomorrow at 9 a.m. at Occidental Park, the Missing, Murdered, and Indigenous Women's March will begin there, and I invite you to take action there. And as we think about missing, murdered, and Indigenous women, I want to invite you to first think about missing. What does that mean? Let me tell you that there are thousands of Indigenous women who are just gone. Our relatives, our sisters, our aunties, our grandmas, and they're gone and they're missing, and we can't get support from government, local governments, from local police departments, from federal government. And we invite you, as you take action, to call your citizens, to call your senators, to call your representatives and ask them to take action on behalf of missing, murdered, and Indigenous women. Not only are Indigenous women missing, but they're being murdered at incredibly high rates, higher rates than any other women in this country. You must ask yourself how sexual exploitation, how fetishizing of Native women for years and years and years and years have hurt all of us. We have to take action on behalf of them. And so part of the way that you can do that is to support Native organizations. Here in this city, we have United Indians of all tribes. We have Seattle Indian Center, the Seattle Indian Health Board, Chief Seattle Club. We have tribes in this area, Suquamish, Muckleshoot, who are doing some amazing work. Support Native people. Support Indigenous women. We need you. We need our allies to come out and stand with us and say no more. No more. No longer will we stand for it to be okay that Native women are just gone. We also know that statistics came out this year that said 90% of Native women in this city have been sexually harassed or have had sexual assaults. 90% of Native women sexually assaulted in this city. Have mercy, exactly. We need your support. We need people to come alongside and gather around and say, we will be with you. So to all of my relatives out here, there's an amazing contingent of women and men, Native people who are still here. We are not invisible. We are here to help lead the way, to show and offer solutions for our city and for our country. They'll be leading this march today. I raise my hands to you. I thank you for your leadership and for your amazing support today. And I'm grateful for every single one. We know that there's people pouring into the park still. And we have one more amazing speaker who's been up here on the stage just supporting every single person, lifting us up. I want to invite Reverend Dr. Kelly Brown from Plymouth Congregational Church.
Dear friends, this is our day. You may be cold. You may be anxious. You may be worried about what's going to come out of the White House today. But this is our day that we take back our nation. And this is the day that women folk who hold up half the universe are lifted up for the power that are within us. So celebrate today. Again, I am the Reverend Dr. Kelly Brown. I'm the lead pastor alongside the Reverend Steve Davis at Plymouth Church United Church of Christ. I want to lift up the women who stand behind me, because women know that we are not islands unto ourselves. We are never alone. And so in solidarity, I would like to lift up the faith leaders who are behind me.
Hello, everybody. My name is Anila Afzali, and I am a proud American woman, and I am here. And I am here with the Muslim Association of Puget Sound's American Muslim Empowerment Network and a group of American Muslims who are marching together here in solidarity and standing for justice.
Reverend Bianca Davis Lovelace, and I am a minister with the United Church of Christ.
I am Rabbi Johanna Kimberg, and I'm the rabbi at Congregation Kol Ami in Woodinville, soon to be Kirkland. Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Good morning. My name is Rituja Indapure. I am from Sammamish, Washington, and I also represent the Hindu women of America. Thank you.
For those of faith and who claim no faith, we are grateful that you are here today. I am here because we who believe in freedom shall not rest. I am here today because these great words of Ella Baker, a voice of righteousness and an unsung hero of the civil rights movement. She spoke these words because she knows that we need to hear that we may be tired, but we cannot rest until freedom comes. She influenced the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And she said this statement unapologetically to the powers that be, and this should be our cry today. We are here today because we do believe in freedom for all people, and specifically for women of every identity. And I stand before you, asking you to join the fight, to be unwilling to rest until freedom, equity, peace, and liberation are a reality for all people. Oh, friends, we stand together today because we have something to stand for. Too many of us have fallen for anything, longing for the good old days, even though the good old days were racist, were transphobic, were sexist and misogynist, were classist and homophobic. Too many of us have shown, too many people in this nation have shown themselves to be gleefully misogynist, gleefully ignorant of the realities of their fellow Americans and other citizens in this world. They have been looking for a leader to come, to rise, to return them to a time where they could be openly hateful without apology. Things may have been bad before, my friends, but this president whose name I shall not speak, and whose administration has purposely been in competition to make things worse for as many of us as they can, today let us say, enough is enough. Too many of us, oh friends, fall for the traps of division, taking on fights that others put in our faces to dilute our power and our solidarity. But we are here today in unity to say that Black Lives Matter, that women are women no matter their identity, that we love all people, that we are not bashing men when we love ourselves. Friends, this is not the kind of America that Ella Baker fought and died for. And this is not the America that we deserve. Healthy and compassionate leadership is supposed to consider all of its people, and it's clear that this is not the case. How do we know? Because there's a government shutdown where more than 800,000 people right now are being held hostage, while this president seeks to build a useless wall. Friends, I can get over the wall and I'm differently abled. thing of the day. How do I know? Because self-appointed, tone-deaf men who are completely ignorant of women's reproductive rights dare to control our bodies. I don't want my tax dollars to pay for one more Viagra pill. We know because the rights of queer and trans people are being rolled back day after day. And we know because black trans women are dying, being murdered week after week, and we do not shed one tear. We know because children are in cages. And we know because violence against women is going unchecked. And toxic masculinity can't even show up in a Gillette advertisement without people losing their minds. I want to hear the best a man can get. We know because asylum seekers are being criminalized. We know because people are rationing their insulin. We know because voting rights are still unsecured, and because human rights for women of every identity are not a priority in this country. Friends, there is nothing more holy than calling bullshit on evil. There is nothing more holy than standing for what is right. But friends, today I'm here to place some of my energy into your lives because I am a person of hope. I can watch all the things that are happening and know that we haven't come this far to give up now. All is not lost. Be encouraged. There is hope. Powerful women, because we are still alive. As long as there is breath in your body, there is the ability to turn things around. It is our moral prerogative to love ourselves, to love our partners, to love our children, to love our world. Our prerogative to know that when we stand against evil, righteousness will prevail. It is our right and our moral prerogative to ask the question the Shiro Sojourner Truth asks, ain't I a woman? And to say that yes, I am, unapologetically. There is hope, because together we are marching, together we are protesting, together we are challenging the status quo and speaking truth to power and voting, hey, our way to liberation. There's hope because we are lifting up the least and the last, the disabled and the differently abled, the sex worker, the two-spirit, the traumatized, the elderly. There is hope. Because guess what, friends? In less than 2 years, there will be a new president that we will put in the White House. So friends, take heart, because the indigenous, the ones who have been most oppressed alongside African Americans, they are praying for us even despite the fact that we continue to kill and oppress them. Take heart, because we are the ones we've been waiting for. We will make America great again, and we will not do it with tacky red hats. We will refuse to rest until every woman and the communities she represents is empowered and free. We who believe and freedom shall not rest. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around, turn me around, turn marching up to freedom land. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. Oh, keep on walking, keep on talking, marching up to freedom's land.
Let's hear it. Dr. Reverend Kelly Brown. We want to invite our indigenous contingent over here to start moving towards the exit so you can lead the way for us in the march. Would you like to ask everyone to make room for our indigenous brothers and sisters, my relatives, as they will be leading us into this next part of our march?
So let's all take a deep breath. Let's get in tune with one another. And before we start marching, I want to share a quick quote that grounds us to stand in solidarity with one another. This is a quote from a Black liberation fighter, Ashata Shakur, who again teaches us that our solidarity and our struggles are intertwined and we must unite together. Yeah, so everybody else wait, don't move, just make space for folks to get in front of the crowd. And we're going to share this quote, so repeat after me. It is our duty to fight for freedom. It is our duty to fight for freedom. It is our duty to win. It is our duty to win. We must love each other and protect each other. We must love each other and protect each other. We have nothing to lose but our chains. We have nothing to lose but our chains. It is our duty to fight for freedom. It is our duty to fight for freedom. It is our duty to win. It is our duty to win. We must love each other and protect each other.
We must love each other and protect each other.
We have nothing to lose but our chains.
We have nothing to lose but our chains.
I can hear you. It is our duty to fight for freedom.
It is our duty to fight for freedom.
It is our duty to win.
It is our duty to win.
We must love each other and protect each other.
We must love each other and protect each other.
We have nothing to lose but our chains.
We have nothing to lose but our chains.
Great. So as we're getting ready to prep for the march, we want to make some quick announcements. Please listen to your peacekeepers. They will be riding you through the entire march. Honor them, thank them for putting their bodies in the line, and please follow their instructions. In addition, we have an amazing program which will be at the Seattle Center. So please stay after. We have amazing workshops that are prepared for you to move you into action and learn how you can build power for 2019. We will also be having workshops tomorrow during the entire day, and we're also joining the MLK. We'll be joining the MLK rallies and programs.
Please follow the social media. You also can find all of the program information on the website. We'd like to invite you to walk slowly. Walk slowly